So we've just heard from the consumer's perspective, and my next guest is an advocate of small businesses. So I'm really excited to hear the other side of the coin on this one. Welcome.
Morena,
So
good morning.
for those of you in New Zealand, you have no doubt heard of the small business lockdown savior that is the Chooice Facebook group. Chooice was started by Sarah Colcord just a few weeks into our first lockdown last year, and it took off. Today, it serves over 500,000 Kiwi small businesses. It is New Zealand's largest Facebook group and biggest small business marketplace. Today, Chooice boasts over 550,000 members, 2,000 stores, over 80,000 products. Over 80,000 products sold, I should say, and over $2.3 million in sales generated for small businesses in just 12 months. It's insane. So it is not a surprise that Sarah is an Impact Awards finalist, a semi-finalist for Young New Zealander of the Year and Innovator of the Year for 2021. Morena, Sarah.
Morena.
So awesome to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Can I just say that Warren has the best background I have ever seen in any Zoom call.
I can't see Warren.
He has an actual plane behind him.
Amazing.
That is a first.
I have not been on one of those for quite some time.
Yeah, I can't remember what that's like as well.
So, look, Sarah, the success of Chooice is really a testament to you being the change during a really turbulent time for small businesses. What led you to create that Facebook group as a start?
Yeah, so I've told this story many times, but so if you've heard this before, I apologize in advance, and let me try and tell it in a little bit of a different way, in a different spin. But at the start of the 2020 lockdown, when Jacinda Ardern announced that we would be heading into level 4, within the span of 2 hours, I lost 12 months worth of contracts. They were cancelled or they were just postponed indefinitely, or in other words, we won't get back to you. so I subsequently lost all of that income, a whole year's worth of income that I had forecasted and lined up, gone in the span of 2 hours.
Yeah.
Absolutely devastating. And there was a good week when I was actually doing nothing. That was the first week of lockdown, because naturally I was in a state of grief for what I was going through, what I had lost. To be fair, and this was the first year that my small business was finally forecasted to enable me to leave my part-time job or my side hustle and do my business full-time. And I also had lined up and projected that by the end of the year, I'd be able to get into the Auckland housing market as well, which still hasn't happened because of COVID, but otherwise, a new goal for 2022. But I lost all of my contracts. And so I decided by the second week after grieving a little bit that I would like to get on this train of virtual events. I see the rise of Zoom and everyone pivoting and transitioning the events industry into the virtual space. And so I wanted a slice of that pie. And for me, as a small business, I don't have deep pockets, especially when you lose all of your forecasted income within 2 hours. And so I said to myself, I'm going to make it my goal to try and get a few clients during lockdown who would like to do some stuff virtually without paying for Google ads and without paying for Facebook ads. In other words, I didn't want to spend any money on ads.
Fair enough.
And so for me, what has always been quite natural, I consider myself a bit of a digital native, is that I've always been in Facebook groups. And I just thought of it as a really cool tool to be able to raise the profile of my small business, as well as bring in a community of other small businesses in the same predicament who would be able to rally some support around them. I launched the Facebook group in the second week of lockdown, and its original name was New Zealand Made Products. I did not. Well, it became very clear to me very quickly that I wasn't alone in the predicament that I was in. In fact,
Mhm.
there were a lot of people, so much so that the Facebook group went what some people would consider viral. And in 2 months, the Facebook group went from 0 to 500,000 people.
Amazing. Yeah.
And at the peak of this Facebook group, so 2 months in, and as the media attention on it skyrocketed, we ended up at one point in time with 11,000 posts waiting in this queue, and me managing about 20 volunteers, half of which I had never met before, but were just various people across the country that just wanted to help get through this 11,000 posts.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's a community build, right? Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and that's where values are so fundamental to,
Exactly.
to reach and build that right
Mm.
community.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what these volunteers saw as well. Could you imagine putting up your hand in the middle of lockdown saying, yes, I would like to moderate a Facebook group that has 11,000 posts waiting for me and not get paid for it?
Wow. How did you do that? That's
Well,
amazing.
it goes back to our korero, our conversation that we're having around values. You know, when people see the value or the service that they're providing, or in this case, and I'll get to talking about it soon, but servant leadership, um, they want in, they want to be involved, they want to be able to be part of that because that too aligns with their own values. So
Yeah.
it's easier to convince people who have the same values as you to come on board.
Especially at a time like that, right?
Mm.
When the entire country is kind of in chaos. It is the first time we've been in lockdown. We're kind of used to it now. Um, but yeah, I think at times like that, it really, those sorts of opportunities pull people together that do share similar values, right?
Absolutely, yes. And people during what I found during that time is that, you know, everyone's online more than usual, more than when we would be without alert levels, because we're all trying to find a sense of community
Yeah,
because we're in isolation technically, and we're also trying to find a sense of belonging. So we all, well, most of us went online to find that, to sustain
yeah.
that sense of belonging and community that we would have had uh, outside of these alert levels. So yeah, what a time.
It's yeah, what a time indeed. It's such a phenomenal story. And what are you've done a lot of youth work prior to
Mm,
this, right? So there's obviously similar values there, in that
yeah.
community feel. What are the values that you think underpin, your work and the Chooice community?
Yeah, so just for context, a lot of people don't know that before I came into Chooice, I was actually I did a stint in politics. I could only do one term, which is 3 years in Auckland Council. I got elected when I was 20, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is all I can spend here because I've already got grey hairs. That's enough for me. Too much bureaucracy. I want to go back into the community. So I've had a short stint in politics, and I am very. My background is youth and community development. So I've worked with a lot of young people over the last eight years in tandem with my event and project management. So a lot of the values that I've had during those parts of my journey are exactly the same that I have
Yeah,
in my Chooice journey, which is why I think that Chooice has such a powerful sense of community, particularly around movement and support, because I've been able to mirror them against the values that I would usually um, embed or lead with in the spaces of politics, or
yeah,
the way in which I lead in politics, which is quite different to other politicians, and youth and community development, which is that sense of servant leadership. And I would
mm,
like, if you're not familiar with the concept, I would love for you to explore it after this. But servant leadership is essentially, it's in the name, servant first. So you focus on the needs of others before you consider your own. And for me, it seems quite old school. But actually I really value that concept because it's something I was raised with. My parents instilled in all of us, all 10 children, I am the middle.
10, wow.
Yes, 10 children, and this concept of servant leadership very young. So for my entire childhood, I watched my parents in their various roles and the various spaces that they occupied. I watched them serve, put people first before their own, before their own needs, without expecting anything in return. And that's a concept. Servant leadership is a concept that I've just carried throughout my leadership journey, and it's been consistent. Is that serving people is at the center of the work I do. You know, I to this day I run Chooice. I started the Facebook group with no intention of it ever turning into a business, but let alone with it turning into something that required me to receive something in return. But just naturally out of the process, obviously it is now a business.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always been out of an act of service, because that's just the value that I hold. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's one of the consistent values that I've had consistently throughout my leadership journey is servant leadership. And then naturally out of that as well comes integrity. So I want to just touch on this one because it wasn't until I started my own business journey that I realized that my dad, well, I knew my dad had named his own business Integrity Automotive Services. But to me as a child, you know, the word integrity, you don't know what that meaning is. And it wasn't until I started my own business journey that I actually realized integrity is a value. And also it's a crucial value to business and how you lead your business. And for me, I just have this new level of this new lens, the way I see my dad now,
Yeah.
for the way in which he named his business Integrity Automotive Services, but he also led out with integrity, and that it underpinned his the way in which he made decisions in his business. And for me, that's been crucial with Chooice to ensure that integrity is part of the foundation of values that I hold and have core to the business. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think integrity in particular these days, everyone is looking for trust, right?
Mm,
Everyone, there's so much going on in the world that creates mistrust that a lot of people these days are actually looking to businesses to fulfill
mm,
that gap because they don't necessarily trust the leadership, which is a
exactly.
real shame. But you mentioned
Mm,
also, within servant leadership is your journey through politics and then ending up in business, and it just goes to show that connection there too is to serve people and to change the world or to
mm.
create something that is a force for good. You don't need to be in politics. Business these days can fill that role.
Exactly. And just going back to that point of servant leadership, you know, when I was younger, I never set goals saying I want to be a politician, I want to be a youth worker, I want to be in community development. What I did was follow my curiosity, but also lead out with servant leadership, lead
Yeah.
out with service, with the desire to serve. And so naturally, because I followed that desire to serve, I ended up in community development, I ended up in youth work, I ended up in politics, and now I am now running Chooice, which is a huge digital community. So
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah. It's the mechanism for the
exactly,
value. Yeah. And what I love is that despite those changes in your career, what's remained constant are your values.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what's your vision for Chooice? How do you see it evolving?
Yeah, so excitingly, I have sat in this chair every day of this alert level 4 in Auckland. I have not moved because we have been tediously working on rebuilding the website to with the goal to relaunch it in October/November, in time for our glorious Christmas shopping season. How fun! But also, I'm really keen this year to not just be a digital community, but to make ourselves present in the community physically. And so, we've got a number of physical events lined up. Unfortunately, one of them just got moved to next year because of alert levels, but fingers crossed, in partnership with, and everyone here is the first to know this, by the way. And I'm allowed, I got
You heard it
permission.
here first.
You heard it here first. But we've partnered with Mount Smart Stadium to bring the first Chooice Christmas market in December, which is going to be,
Amazing.
it's going
Wow.
to be amazing. So what's awesome is a lot of our sellers on Chooice, a lot of the businesses that use Chooice, they come from market backgrounds. So a lot of them came to Chooice because all the markets closed down. And so what's really cool is that we're able to tap into that. You know, we're doing a market and it just happens to be at Mount Smart Stadium. It's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. So it's really exciting. Yeah, so a lot of things projected. So physical events so that we can be physical in the physical community, not just present in the digital community. Relaunching the website so that that we can enable more businesses to sell more things and drive more sellers to the website. I mean, to be honest, our current website, guys, it's an MVP, which means it's a minimum viable product.
And there is nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with an MVP, but it's done all it can, and so it's time for us to give it new life, new power, new strength, and yeah, we're really excited about that, and also some stuff lined up in the new year as well. Again, physical events, some awards, not awards. Not Chooice getting awards, but in terms of awards for small businesses, grants, yeah, real exciting stuff. So
yeah,
we're
wow.
just getting started, to be honest.
And I mean, I know a lot of us in here are in lockdown, but you've got some amazing billboards supporting small businesses around the place too. There's lots of orange around the place if you are allowed out on the roads.
Yes, if you're allowed out on the roads. We 2 weeks ago, Chooice partnered with Lumo Digital Billboard Company, and we've been able to support 100 of our small businesses in the Chooice community to get some much needed visibility during this time. And so Lumo has given us complimentary billboards across the country, across their network of 34 screens, and it's been awesome. Not just for Chooice the brand to be on billboards, but these are small businesses who highly likely would have never had the opportunity in this year, maybe a couple of years away, to ever see their livelihood, their baby on a big screen. And so the messages that we've been getting have been so cool, and there definitely hasn't been short of tears. There's just been so much crying and emails saying, I saw the image and I just bursted out in tears, and I live for that. I live for the tears.
That is so cool. Yeah, it is so cool. I have the same feeling when I first bring a brand to a small business, you know, and suddenly all of these dreams, there's something physical, there's something visual, it's suddenly real. It is the coolest feeling, and so much pride in what they've built, right?
Exactly. And it is people's babies, it is people's livelihoods. You know, I spend at least 16 hours a day on Chooice. I can't imagine what other small businesses spend on their own businesses. You know, I call Chooice my baby, they call their business their baby. And so to see it alive on a big screen, even if it is in alert level 4, is an accomplishment in itself for them, a huge milestone. And so yeah, it's been such a boost for my spirit, and for some of my team as well, to just read the messages and the posts coming through. You know, it goes as far as people saying, it's given me a boost to keep going with my business, you know. And those are sometimes when you can be knee deep in my type of work, you know, sitting in the seat 16 hours a day, you can forget about there's real people behind these names that you see every single day in a Facebook group, real dreams, real lives. And so yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely. It's such an amazing story, Sarah, and congratulations, you deserve all the success with it. We do have one quick question. I think I saw a question earlier. Lots of people giving you lots of love for and agreeing with the whole servant leadership piece.
Yes, have a look at that one.
I've lost it. We'll move on anyway, but we are going to answer all of your questions. So any questions that we don't answer, we will be going through the chat later and making sure that we get all the answers out to you guys anyway. So yes, thanks so much,
awesome.
Sarah.
No worries. Thank you for having me, and have a good rest of this virtual summit, everyone. Make the most of it, because yeah, we never know what the world is going to be like next week, let alone tomorrow. So
Too true. Too true.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Ka kite.